All the shurim this month are dedicated by Leah and the Zechus of Rafu Shlema for her daughter Ilana Bas Esther. We hope down in the merit of our Talmud Torah. It's Ilana together with Kol Chol Yisrael have a complete and enduring refuah. And I both say with that, let's begin. We have a really very interesting daf today. Amr of Acha Bar Yaakov Shma Mino Mid Rab Shmuel Lakish. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said as follows: learn out from the Shita of Rab Shmuel Lakish. Also remember again, what did Reish Lakish say? If you look at Rashi for just a moment. 6 lines down from the top, Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph, 33a, 6 lines down. Says Rashi, Midrash Lakish. Rashi says, I gave you homework. You got to read the WhatsApps, right? So says Rashi, Midrash Lakish. Rashi says the Amar Chayvan Shenechtach Kana. Both remember again, we had the Shita of Reish Lakish yesterday. Reish Lakish said that once the trachea is cut, Havireya Kimancha Bidikula. It's as if the lungs are sitting in a basket. Rich Yosef, if you remember again, was another way of saying that halacha lemaisa, once the trachea is cut, so by definition, again, the lungs are really no longer viable, and therefore it's as if they are out of the animal already. Kemancha b'dikula is an expression, it's as if they're sitting in a basket. Shma mina, so we'll say, so okay, so that was Reish Lakish. So comes along Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, and Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says, based on that statement, something amazing comes out. Well, it's actually quite wild. Shma mina with Rab Shmuel Lakish, mizamnin Yisrael al b'nei me'ayim, that a Jew is permitted to eat the intestines of an animal. Again, we're going to discuss the scope of this in just a moment. Ve'in mizamnin ovdei kochavim al b'nei me'ayim. But ultimately, again, we do not go ahead and allow the ovdei kochavim to go ahead and eat of the intestines of the animal. Now, what is this talking about? Take a look at Rashi again. That same Rashi Midrash Lakish. Damar chayven shenechtach kana havireya kimancha b'dikula. So remember Reish Lakish who says that once the trachea is cut, it's as if the lungs are sitting in a basket. So Rashi says over here, he goes on to have a kamisha otzia min abehema ba'odem mefarchasas. So both say, so remember again, what that means is, so, okay, let me finish Rashi. V'ovi kochavim, lav b'shchita tali heter, achila didei, shelo huskara shchita etzlo, ve'ever min achai ne'esar lahen, ve'n yotze lahem midei ever min achai ad shetamus. This is actually quite fascinating. An ovid kochavim, this is amazing, doesn't require shchita. So in order for an ovid kochavim, so remember again, on one hand, an ovid kochavim doesn't have a requirement of shchita. But an ovid kochavim is not allowed to what? To eat from a living animal. That is called Ever min achai. So in order for an ovid kochavim to eat from the animal, what has to happen? The animal has to be what? Dead. Interestingly enough, in order for Yisrael to partake of an animal, the animal has to what? Be geshacht, right? It has to be shechted. Now, Bossi, here's what's interesting. Even after the animal is shechted, we'll get into this more, but the animal often is mifarchases, which means it's thrashing or it's moving. Now, we know the animal is dead, right? This is the famous, Bossi, we're going to get into this, this is the famous brain death machlokes, right? So, again, Rabbi Moshe David Tendler, who is a proponent of the brain death criteria when it comes to end of life, so he did the famous chicken experiment where they cut off the head of the chicken and the chicken was still running around, which indicates to you that what? Now, obviously, the chicken without a head is dead, right? That's not even a machlokes, right? It's dead. But what you see over here is the body can move. There could be whatever the technical scientific term is, but there could be these movements, right? These almost like muscle spasms, even after clearly death has occurred. What's interesting is as follows. Akum, who does not require shchita, requires the animal to be dead. Now both say dead for our purposes today means what? No movement. The animal is no longer mifarchases. So Rav Acha says something amazing. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov says, based on the statement of Reish Lakish was the one who said that after you cut the trachea, even if subsequently something happened to the lungs, now we'll get into this in Eva Trefus, but if if the lungs have some type of blemish or puncture, that renders the animal a treifa. Reish Lakish said once you cut the trachea, essentially the lungs are as if they're out of the animal already. Why? What's the logic? Because the existence of the lungs is predicated on the intactkeit, right, of the trachea, right? Once the trachea is no longer intact, then by definition the lungs are as if they're on the outside. So we'll say, so what's interesting is as follows. So therefore again, if you shecht an animal and the animal is still moving, so a Jew is permitted to eat the kishkas. Why? Because for a Jew, what's the determinant that allows you to eat from an animal? Shchita. Interestingly enough, when the animal is still moving, an akum would not be permitted to eat of the kishkas, even if the animal has been shechted. Why? Because for an akum you need death. So we'll say what's amazing about this is as follows. All this time we thought that Gentiles had it easier, right? Because again, they don't require shchita. So while that's true, they don't require shchita, you just have to kill the animal. Interestingly enough, a Jew does not need the animal to stop moving in order to partake of it. Once it's geshacht, once it's shechted, we're done. For an akum, however, who requires the death of the animal can no longer be moving. Quite interesting. So Gemara says, my time, what's the reason for this? So Yisrael, the b'shchita talia milsa, because for Yisrael, ultimately again, who requires the death of the animal, kevan dika shchita mal yosei ishtari lahu. So we'll say for Yisrael, what he requires is shchita. Once ultimately again a proper shchita has been done, we're good, right? Then we're good. Interestingly enough, by akum, who requires what? Rabbi say nechira literally means stabbing, but stabbing is a nondescript. What does stabbing mean? What does stabbing mean? Killing, right? All you have to do is kill the animal however you want to kill it. Sagilu ubemisa talya milsa. So we'll say this is amazing. So for a Jew, what the license for consumption is shchita. Once those two simanim have been cut, that animal is permitted for consumption. For an akum, Rabbi say, what is required is misa. The nafkamina between shchita and misa is the post-mortem movements of the animal. For an akum, that will be problematic. For a Yisrael, it will not be. So says the Gemara, Hani cave, so the Gemara says, therefore, Mistatay Milsa, Hani cave Menachaidam. Therefore, I will say, interestingly enough, if an akum were to partake of the animal while the animal is still moving, even after it's been stabbed, or even after it had its head chopped off, right, ultimately, again, for an akum, that would still be the equivalent of Ever Menachai. Quite amazing. Amar Papa. So Papa says, so say, this is all Rav Acha Bar Yaakov's statement, based on the Shita of Reish Lakish. So Amar Papa, Haviyasivna Kamed Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. So Papa says, I was sitting in front of Rav Acha Bar Yaakov when he said all of this. Ubai de'emalei. And what I wanted to say to him was as follows. This totally doesn't make sense. Mi'ika miditi li Yisrael shari u'ovdei kochavim aser. Is it possible that there is something that for a Jew is permitted and for an akum is not permitted? In other words, halacha never works that way, right? Could it be that something that is permitted for a Jew is usher to an akum? So you're going to tell me over here that after the animal has been shechted, ultimately, again, if it's still moving, a Yisrael is allowed to eat it, but an akum is not allowed to eat it? Does that actually make sense? So the Gemara says, V'lo amrilei. Interesting enough, Rav Papa said, but I didn't say anything to Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. Why? Because I said to myself, you know what? This obviously Rav Acha Bar Yaakov has his reasoning. He has his logic. So therefore, again, because of that, ultimately, again, I did not respond in any way. Tanya Dilok Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. So we'll say now the Gemara brings a braysa, not like Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. How so? Listen to this. We'll say, so now this is, so remember, in Rav Acha Bar Yaakov's shita, based on Reish Lakish, is that for a Jew, in order to permit the animal, all you need is what? Not all you need, but what you need is shchita. And once the animal is shechted, the animal is done. Therefore, again, even if the animal is moving, halacha l'maisa, what? You can still partake of the parts of the animal. Yet, interestingly enough, for an akum who doesn't require shchita, the akum requires misa, and therefore halacha l'maisa, but misa is defined as cessation of all movements. Now watch this. So Tanya Dilok Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. So we have braysa that is not like Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. How so? If a person wants to eat from an animal before it has totally died, then I will say, now what this means is as follows. If you want to eat from the animal, what is it? Kodem shetetzei nafsha, I will say, sounds like before, literally means before it's died. And obviously I will say, you can't eat from an animal while it's still alive. What is this talking about? This is talking about post-shchita, but there are still movements occurring. So what do? You could go ahead and cut off a piece of meat from the beis hashchita, from the area of the neck. Umolcho yafe yafe. You salt it very well. That will say the point of that is to extract the blood. Umadicho yafe yafe. You wash it off very well. Umamtin la ad sheteitze nafsha, and you wait ultimately again until the animal dies. Va'ochla, and then you could eat it. Echad oved kochavim ve'echad Yisrael mutarin bo, and this is both for a Jew and a non-Jew. Now, what do you see from this brisa? Why is this brisa not like Rav Achar by Yaakov? Because what does this brisa require of you? What does it require of you? That you have to wait until the animal stops moving in order to go ahead and partake of the meat. Now, the chiddush over here, this brisa is that what? You can pretty much do anything and everything to get that piece of meat ready. So the idea is you could take the piece of meat from the Beis HaShchita, which is the neck, which is an easily accessible area, right? You could cut it right out, you could salt it, you could wash it, you could do whatever you need. Get ready, stand there waiting, but you cannot partake of the meat until when? Until the animal actually stops convulsing. Only once the animal stops moving, then you are permitted to go ahead and eat of the meat. And this is true for a Jew and non-Jew alike. Misayele the Rav Idi Barav. It's supposed to have another brisa. That's the verse of Idi Barav. And Rav Idi Baravin, Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Ashian Haroet Seshiyavri. I will say if a person wants. Apparently, this was a well-known, not skula like in a skula way, but apparently like in a healthy eating habits. Haroet Seshiyavri. I'll say if somebody wants to be healthy, so what should you do? Shachotech kizayis basar beis hashchita. Take a piece of meat from the Beis HaShchita, from the neck, from where the animal was shechted. Mocho yafe yafe, salt it very well. Umadicho yafe yafe, wash it down very well. Umamtin la ad sheteitze nafsha. But I will say you have to wait to eat it until what? Until the animal dies. I will say, remember again, we're talking about an animal that's been shechted. So what does it mean you have to wait to eat until the animal dies? You have to wait until the animal stops moving. Echad oved kochavim ve'echad Yisrael mutarin bo. And I will say this is true for Jew and non-Jew alike. So we'll say, interestingly enough, what do you see from here? So we'll say, now here's what's interesting. Now there's a chiddush on two ends over here. The chiddush on one end, so the chiddush I will say for the Jew is that what? Although technically speaking, after the animal is shechted, the animal is dead, we clearly see that what does the halacha really want of you? What does the halacha want? Wait to eat it until the animal stops moving. So we'll say that's the chiddush for the Jew. What's the chiddush for the non-Jew? So this is very interesting. So we'll say, watch this. If you hold that a non-Jew ultimately, again, cannot eat from the animal that's moving because the animal is erim min achai, you have to say, what did the Bryce allow for over here? The Bryce allowed for, you could cut out a piece from the Beis HaShchita, right? Salt it, wash it, but you have to wait to eat it until when? Until the animal stops moving. I will say, so I might have thought that would be erim min achai for an akum also. Because we'll say, remember again, let's say for argument's sake, an akum goes over to an animal, chops off a leg of an animal while it's still alive. But then, a little while later, the animal dies of natural causes, right? So we'll say, could the akum eat from that leg of the animal? No. Why? It's erim min achai. The fact the animal subsequently died doesn't make a difference. But we'll say, the novelty over here is that we see that once an animal is shechted, I will say, that animal is dead. And that is true for a Jew and for a non-Jew. Even though for a non-Jew, it's talya b'misa, I will say we don't consider that to be erim min achai, even though the animal is still moving. So halacha lemaisa, what you see is over here, even though for a non-Jew, it's b'misa talya milsa. Nevertheless, once the animal is shechted, that animal is considered dead, even though it's convulsing. But both Jew and non-Jew alike should not eat from that animal ultimately until when? Until the animal actively stops moving. And I will say, this is codified in Shulchan Aruch. As you can see, the English Pop brings down, this is Siman Chav Zayin in Yaradeya, and the halacha is as follows. The halacha is, I'll show it to you right now, Siman Chav Zayin, halacha Aleph, Chatach mi behema la'acha shenishcheta karoi, ve'aldena mefarchesas. But say if you cut off a piece of an animal after it was shechted appropriately, but the animal is still convulsing, what's the halacha? Aser le'echol mimena ad shetamuz habehema. It is usher to eat of the animal until the animal dies. Now I will say, what does die mean for our purposes? Stops moving. Because obviously after shechita, the animal is dead. The animal is dead. But I will say, what the halacha says, you should wait to partake of the animal ultimately again until it stops convulsing. And that is true for Jew and non-Jew alike. Good. We'll say new Mishnah. Hashochet behema chayiv va'of. So we're going to spend a little bit of time in some sugyas over here of Tumah and Tara. as they relate, but they're beautiful. They're beautiful. They're incredible, and they're riveting. Right? So we'll say so again. All most of life, I will say, is the mindset you choose to take. Can't choose the daf, but you can choose your approach. So let's say, so here we go. So says the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Shochi b'mechayv of lo yatzim and dan. So here we go. You shecht a behemechayim of, and amazingly enough, no blood came out. No blood came out. I will say we'll discuss this in greater depth. What's the halacha? Ksherim. I will say so. The halacha is the shchita is kosher. I will say one might have thought that if you have a bloodless shchita, that's indicative that you did something wrong. So halacha l'maisa, the Mishnah says, if somehow this particular anomaly occurs, the shchita is still good. Not only that, but interestingly enough, in ne'achalin biyadayim misu avos. And I will say, you could consume that animal, right, even with yadayim misu avos literally means dirty hands. I will say dirty hands in this context means hands which are tmeim. And I will say, now bepashtos, what that means is as follows. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Bi'adai misu avos, kilomar below netila, the gazru aleim lihios shnios. So we'll say, now what's happening over here is as follows. In general, so blood is one of the liquids that is machshir items lekabel tuma. Right? Remember again, in order for an item to be mekabel tuma, usually it has to come in food item to become mekabel tuma, it has to come in contact with a liquid. Blood is one of those liquids. So under normal circumstances, I will say when you shecht, there's blood, and where there's blood, that usually makes the beis hashchita or the animal itself ra'ui lekabel tuma. In which case, again, I would have to be careful that my hands are ritually pure when handling the animal, so that I not convey tuma to the animal itself. Now, so therefore, again, if you have a bloodless shchita, then what does that mean? That essentially means that the animal is never mekabel tuma, right? Therefore, again, even if my hands are tmeim, that my hands do not convey tuma to the animal. Okay, because we'll say ultimately again, I'm permitted. So therefore, again, I could eat this animal even with unclean hands. Because we'll say because the animal itself was never hochsha lekabel tuma, because there was no blood, there was no liquid medium which rendered this food item fit lekabel tuma. Rabbi Shimon says hochsharu b'shchita. Rabbi Shimon says no, but the act of shchita itself, renders the item fit lekabel tuma. Look at Rashi. Hochsharu b'shchita. Migo d'shari shchita lahach basar midi ever minachai. Mashri leinami uchla legabi tuma. So Rabbi Shimon says, once shchita is enough to change the status of the item, to make it fit for consumption, and bless you, and to take it out of the prohibition of Eivim and Achai, then by definition, this shchita is also good enough to what? Also good enough to halacha l'maisa, render it fit like kabel tuma. Good. So I'll say it's a fundamental machlokes in the Mishnah about whether or not a bloodless shchita renders the animal fit lekabel tuma. Tanakama is saying no in the absence of blood, so the animal is not fit to be mekabel tuma. Therefore, if the hands are tahorin, even if the hands are tamein, the meat does not become tamei. Rabbi Shimon says no. Shchita itself, by definition, is machshir the animal lekabel tuma, because the same way that shchita affects a change in status, and then it's no longer even minachai, and then ultimately again, tuma. Therefore, halacha l'maisa. Once it affects a change in status that's no longer ever minachai, it also makes it fit lekabel tuma. Beautiful. Says the Gemara. Taima delo yatse mehandam. They both say now the reason ultimately again why this animal is not fit lekabel tuma is because no blood came out. Hayatsa mehandam. But so what I can infer from here is if that blood did come out from the shchita, I would not be permitted to eat it with what? With unclean hands. Now, why is it? And when we say unclean, we mean, again, tamei. Why is it? Amai, yadayim shniosein, ve'in sheni oses lishi b'chulin. They will say, so let's analyze this. The Gemara says, we'll say the halacha works with the general assumption that stam yadayim shniosein. We work with the assumption, we'll say, that stam hands are shnios. Right? There is what we call a sheni latuma. They're shnios. So says the Gemara something very interesting. So we'll say, if you work with the general assumption that yadayim are shnios, we have a general principle that a shein, and we'll say, remember how it works in Tumah. So the way it works in Tumah is transference of Tumah is never, almost never, a lateral transference. Generally, again, whatever state you're in when you transfer tumah, it's what? It goes down a level, right? So therefore, again, if my hands are a sheni, so we'll say the halacha by hilchos tumah v'tara is that by chulin, there's no such thing as a shlishi. There's no such thing as a shlishi by tumah by chulin. If that's the case, Rabosai, then even if my hands are a sheni, they should not be able to convey tumah to an animal which is chulin to make it a shlishi. So we'll say, again, just to reframe this. What we're saying over here is that in the case of a bloodless shchita, so the good news is that my hands cannot convey tumah. My hands cannot convey tumah to the animal. What the Gemara is saying over here is, even if there is blood, and therefore again it makes the animal fit lekabel tumah, my hands are a sheni. If my hands are sheni, Rabosai, they can't make the animal, which we're assuming is a chulin animal, a shlishi anyway. Because why? There's no such thing as a shlishi by chulin. To which the Gemara says, "Umayt b'chulin askinon." How do you know that we're dealing with? So the Gemara says, by the way, how do you know that the Mishnah is dealing with the case of chulin? Right? How do you know we're doing the chulin animal? I'll tell you why. So the Gemara says, "Diktani chaya," because remember again, I was saying the Mishnah said, "Ashochet behema chaya va'of." And Rabbi said, remember again, we have to be dealing with chulin. Why? Dila b'kadshim chaya b'kadshim mi'ika. Rabbi said, remember again, if we're dealing with a sacrificial animal, then what? There's no chaya. Rabbi said, there's no such thing as a chaya being off. There's a behema by karbanos. There's an oaf by karbanos, but there's no chaya by karbanos. So the Gemara says, furthermore, dila b'kadshim chaya b'kadshim mi'ika v'su I b'kadshim. Rabbi said, furthermore, if we're going to be dealing with a kadshim animal, kilo yotze mehem dam kshera. I will say, let's analyze this. We're dealing with a case of kadshim. Would a bloodless sacrificial offering ever be good? So the Gemara says, "Hu atzmo ladam hu tzarich." I will say, by a carbon, what's the ikar part of the carbon? I will say, is the blood. Is the blood. So a bloodless carbon is going to open up a whole other bunch of issues. V'su, furthermore, I b'kadshim ki yotze mehem dam mimachshir. We'll say, furthermore, again, if we're dealing with kadshim, does blood of a carbon make it huchshar lekabel tumah? Vam Rabbi Chia bar Abba. Rabbi Abba said, "Am Rabbi Yochanan, midayin ledam kadshim sheino machshir." We'll say, from where do we know that the blood of kadshim is not machshir? Right, it doesn't make it right lekabel tumah. Shene emar, because the pasuk says, "Ala aretz tishbachenu kamayim." We'll say the pasuk says that you have to spill out the blood on the earth. Dam shenishbach kimayim machshir. Rabbi say it is only blood that is poured out like machshir, something lekabel tumah. Sheno nishbach kamayim eno machshir. Rabbi say blood that is not spilled out like water. Which Rabbi say, so what's that type of blood that's spilled out like water? Chullin blood. Sacrificial blood, Rabbi say, is not spilled out on the ground like water. So what do you see from here? It's only chullin blood that is machshir, the animal lekabel tumah. Kadshim blood is not the machshir, the animal lekabel tumah. Visu, furthermore, ibe kadshim kilo yatz meham dam lo miskashri liskashri b'chibas hakodesh. We'll say furthermore again by kadshim, even if no blood comes out, ultimately again a carbonic animal should be hochshir lekabel tumah. I will say based on the concept of chibas kadshim. I will say what is chibas kadshim? Chibas hegdish. Chibas hegdish, Rabbi say, means that items which are kodesh by definition are stricter, or I should say more sensitive to tumah on every single level. Therefore, I should say, Rabbi say, that a kadshim animal, even in the absence of a liquid medium, should become hochshir lekabel tumah. Why? Because it's kodesh. The kaimalon chibas kodesh machsharton, because we'll say ultimately you're going to call chibas kodesh. Chibas kodesh means the love of kodesh. What it means is the sensitivity of kodesh. Ultimately, again, should make it kodesh even without a liquid medium. So I'll say, so ultimately, again, we're trying to figure out over here what's the case. So what we've just established is it cannot be a case of kadshim. It cannot be a case of a sacrificial item for all the reasons we just mentioned. A, because the Mishnah is talking about a chaya, right? There's no chaya by kadshim. And furthermore, again, I'll say it could be that even in a case of a bloodless shchita, a kodesh animal would still become huchshir lekabel tumah. Why? Because of chibas kodesh. So what is the case? So here we go, Bosse. Someone Hacha is actually really interesting. Hacha bechulin shelakhan bekesef meiser askinan. Bosse, what are we dealing with over here? We're dealing with We're dealing with it always comes back to this. We're dealing with a Chullin animal that was purchased with Meiser Sheni funds. See, Rabbi say, what's always the beauty of the case of a Chullin animal purchased with Meiser Sheni funds? It straddles the fence a little bit. On one hand, what? On one hand, halacha lemaisa, it is Chullin. On the other hand, it's Kodesh. So we're dealing with a case of a Chullin animal which was purchased with Meiser Sheni funds. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Bekesef Meiser b'Yerushalayim. And I'm eating this animal in Yerushalayim. Dichsev v'nasata kesef v'ashmu inyon d'sheni avid bu shlishi lo kamer. So we'll say, now watch this. So the novelty in this case of Rabbi is what? That halacha l'maisa. So follow this. I bring my money to Yerushalayim, I bring my Sheni to Yerushalayim. I use the money to purchase an animal. I shecht the animal, and what happens? It's a bloodless shchita. So I'll say, so what's the novelty of the Mishnah? The novelty of the Mishnah is the animal does not become tamei, which would tell me that in a case that's what? Where there was blood, Rabbi say, what would happen? It would be tamei, which means that my hands, which in halach are considered to be what? Sheni l'tuma, shnios, would convey tuma to this Meiser Sheni animal. Udelo ki Rab Meir. And Rabbi say, this does not reflect the view of Rab Meir. Because what does Rab Meir hold? This time, Rabbi say, get ready. It's about to get crazy. Watch this. Amad Beis, Rabbi say, Kolat, yes, my Medivrei Sofrim. So now watch this. Because in general we hold, Kolaton, bias my Medivrei Sofrim. So anything that requires immersion in a mikvah, midrabanan. Rabbi say, now take a look at Rashi. Tar Rashi and Lamed Gimel Beis. Kalaton b'yasvayim midray sofrim. Koshu min Torah tar. Rabbi say anything that midarais is really tar. V'sofrim gazru alav tuma. And Rabbi say in general the Rabbanon conferred a status of tuma upon it. What's an example of that? Kigon. Hayadayim. One example of that Rabbi say would be hands. Right? Rabbi say, you remember again, Chazal, the rabbis instituted that in general hands, right? Your hands are considered to be a sheni l'tuma. Skip down a little bit. It says the Shabbos says, "Gozra aleim umetame es hakodesh ad shaso shlishi tame shu asor shus oravir." Both say, now watch this. Kalaton biasmai midivrei sofrim. Anything I will say that is tame midrabanan. Now, for our purposes, we're focusing now on hands. The Rabbanon came along and said that I will say hands midrabanan have the status of a shlishi. Now watch this. Metame es hakodesh have the ability to convey tuma to kodesh, uposel es truma, and they have the ability to go ahead and what? And pasel truma, umutter bechulin ubemeiser div Rabbi Meir. But I both say, but hands will have no impact on chulin and no impact on meiser sheni. That's the view of Rabbi Meir. On the other hand, the chachamim ostrim b'meiser, but the chachamim will aser even in meiser sheni. The chacham will say, I will say that what? That hands which are shnios have the ability to go ahead and what? Convey tuma to an animal which is meiser sheni, or to meiser sheni. So I'll say, so do we say, we'll pause here for just a moment. So we'll say, now what are we setting up our Mishnah? We're setting up our Mishnah according to Rav Nachman and then Rav Baravua. We're setting up our Mishnah as dealing with what? An animal which was purchased with meiser sheni funds, taken to Yerushalayim, and then shechted. So we'll say two cases. If it's a bloodless shchita, then what? What did the Mishnah tell me? Right? The animal's fine. It's not mekabel tumah because there's no liquid medium. But yet what? If the animal did bleed, then what? If there's blood, then the animal is hukshul mekabel tumah. And if indeed my hands, which are shnios, could convey tumah to the meiser sheni animal. Rabbi say, whose opinion does that reflect? That's the chachamim. The chachamim hold Rabbi say that hands which are temeim midrabanan as shnios have the ability to convey tumah to an animal which is meiser sheni, like the chachamim, but not like Rabbi Meir. Maskif Rasim Barashi. So Rasim Barashi raised the kasha. He said, "Mimai, how do I know that? Dilma adkan lo pligi Rabbon Ali Rabbi Meir ela ba'achilas meiser." I will say maybe ultimately again the Rabbanon only argue on Rabbi Meir where I will say ba'achilas meiser with meiser consumption. Aval benegia de meiser. But I say ultimately again, maybe we were touching meiser sheni, and for that matter, chulin consumption. Maybe the chachamim do not argue on Rabbi Meir. But I will say, one second, the case of the Mishnah is the case of Negia. It says that ultimately, again, he's eating it, right? He's eating it with unclean hands, which I will say sounds like a case of Negia. So not necessarily. I will say maybe the case is where what? Where somebody took the meat of the Meiser Sheni animal. I will say, what did they do? They put it down the throat of the guy with the unclean hands. So therefore, what are we coming up with over here? We're coming up with a case where what? Where ultimately, again, the guy who had the sheni hands never what? Never touched the animal. So you can have a case of a guy who has hands which are shnios, who never actually went ahead and touched the animal, but yet consumed the meiser sheni meat. Amar Papa. So Papa says no. What's the case here, Abba? Here we go. This is amazing. Hacha biyadayim tchilos haskinan. Papa says we are not dealing with a case. Ultimately, again, with hands which are shnios, but rather, again, we're dealing with a case of hands which are arishon l'tuma. Wow. Hands. Abba, now, by the way, the novelty over here we're going to see is we're dealing with hands which are arishon, even though what? The rest of your body is not. Hands, so I understand that you could have hands which are shnios, even though the rest of the body is nothing. Why? That's just a din d'Rabbanan. That's a din d'Rabbanan. Papa says we're now dealing with the case of hands themselves which are tchilos. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And ultimately, again, this reflects the view of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. But now watch this. Here we go. This Sanya, in yadayim tchilos the Chullin. I will say when it comes to Chullin, a hands can never be a rishon, right? Look at Rashi just a moment. Desanya, in yadayim tchilos the Chullin, b'mokom shuska yadayim tchilos kegon yadayim shehuchnusu lebeis ha'menuged demikru tchilos lo huskru elo Chullin de bechulin lo havu elo shnios. So I will say in general, and again, we don't know yet how hands could become tchilos. Hands could become a rishon, but we'll see it in just a moment. But wherever we see that in yadayim tchilos, whenever we see your hands are tchilos, they're never tchilos for Chullin. Right? I will say there is no such thing as hands being a rishon for Chullin. Rabbi Shimon Elazar Mishra B'Meir Omer, Rabbi Shimon Elazar Mishra B'Meir, yadayim tchilos l'Chullin u'shnios l'truma. Hands can become tchilos l'Chullin, and they can also become, and therefore by extension, shnios for truma. Tchilos, the Chullin in the Truma Labasa, does that make any sense? That hands could be a rishon for Chullin, but not for Truma? Rather, what it means is as follows. Hachi Kamar, Tchilos af l'Chullin. I will say they can become Tchilos, a rishon, both for Truma and even for Chullin. Shnios l'Truma in l'Chullin lo. And they can become a sheni ultimately again for Truma, but not for Chullin. Umi ika, so we'll say, okay, this is all very interesting, but it leads us to a very simple question. Umi ika yadayim tchilos. Now we'll say, is there such a concept of hands becoming a rishon, even when what? The rest of the body is not. See, Rabbi say, again, let's be clear. You could say that hands are a sheni l'tuma, because on a very simple level, what is that referring to? Rabbinic tuma. The moment that you're going to start going ahead and saying that hands are rishon, I will say that sounds like a heightened level of tumah. We've never heard of hands being a rishon, but yet the rest of the body remains unaffected. Is there such a concept like that? To which the Gemara says, I'm going to show it to you right now. Sorry. I'm going to show it to you right now. Where do you see it? Tisanya. This is amazing. Let's say again, a person extends his hands into a home afflicted with tsaras. He extends his hands into a home afflicted with tsaras. So what's the halacha? Yodav tchilos div Rabbi Akiva. So we'll say Rabbi Akiva paskins that his hands are considered to be a rishon. Right? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Look at Rashi. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer Yadav Tchilos Huskru Eitzel Chai. I'm sorry. Hichnis Yadav Kishanat Lan V'Tir Metumas Stam Yadayim. So we'll say the case over here is a person went ahead and was matayr his hands from what we call tumas stam yadayim. So remember again, we're operating with the backdrop. The halachic backdrop to this is stam yadayim are always considered to be a sheni, right? So what happens? A guy went ahead. How are you matayr your hands? How matayr your hands? Yeah. Stick in the mikvah, right? Stick it for now, for today, it's different, right? But for, let's say, the Gemara's purposes, you stick them in a mikvah. Good. Then what happens, Rabbi Say? I stick my hands in a home which is afflicted with saras. Okay? Now watch this. Yadav tchilos of Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Kiva paskins that his hands are now a rishon. The chum say yadav shnios. Chum say no, your hands are not a rishon. Rather, your hands are what? A sheni. So we'll say, so what's the machlokes? The choli amma bia b'miktas lo shmei bia. So we'll say everyone agrees that partial entry into a home afflicted with saras is not tantamount to a full entry into that home. Now look at Rashi. Bia b'miktas lo shma bia. Di'ishma bia havi kol gufo tamei ubai tvila mishum v'habar labayis va'anan yadayim hu ditaminon v'taima ditavayim mishum the supposed to listen to this. So everyone agrees that when you stick your hands into a home, just your hands afflicted with saras, the Rebbe will say that is not the equivalent of full entry into the home. We'll say, how do we know that? How do we know that? Because if sticking your hands into the home afflicted with saras was the equivalent of full entry, then what? Then what would you require? Tevila of your whole body. So obviously, Rebbe will say, when you stick your hands into the home, that ultimately, again, is not considered to be full entry. V'hacha b'gzera yadav ato gufa kamiflagi. So we'll say, what's that play over here? What's the machlokes? Rabbi Kiva and the Chachamim. The issue over here is, are we gozer entry of the hands, lest you come to enter with your full body? Mar savar yadav kegufo shavin rabbanan. We'll say the rabbanan feel that once you're putting your hands into the home, so the chances are your whole body is going to enter, and therefore again, we're gozer, and therefore we treat your hands as if the entire body entered into the home. And therefore what? The hands themselves literally become a rishon. We'll say that's the position of Rabbi Akiva. Umar savar yadayim ki yadayim dal moshavin rabbanon. And the other opinion of both, which is the rabbanon, holds that no. The hands, even though they enter into the bayis hamanuga, are treated like any other hands, and therefore what Rabbi say are what? Are a sheni, not a rishon. So therefore, Allah say you could have a case of hands which are a rishon, which would be what? Hands which were placed inside a bayis hamenuga, even though the rest of the body did not enter in. So why don't we set up the Mishnah as according to Rabbi Akiva, who says that hands can become a rishon. So the Gemara says, I'll tell you why. Dilma ki ka'amar Rabbi Akiva hani mili b'truma v'kadshim. The chamiri. Aval Chullin shnios havyon. We'll say maybe even Rabbi Akiva, who holds that hands can become a rishon, Rabbi say, maybe he only holds it ultimately again like gabi truma and kachim, which to begin with are treated in a more chamer state. Aval Chullin shnios havyon. But Rabbi say for Chullin purposes, ultimately again they will be considered what? They'll be considered a sheni. So the Gemara says, I'm sorry, let me read that differently. So let them be treated as shnios. Because we'll say that's fine. According to Rabbi Akiva, even if you want to say that ultimately, again, the hands will only be considered a sheni, that's the case, because Rabbi Akiva is another novel shita. We'll say today is Rabbi Akiva's day. Rabbi Akiva is one who holds that what? That if you put your hands into a bayis hamenuga, what's the status of your hands? What's the status of your hands? It's a rishon. But yet, Rabbi Akiva is also of the opinion that if your hands are a sheni, Rabbi Akiva has this incredibly novel shita, that a sheni can make a shlishi by chulin. Wow. That's even better than the cinnamon buns, I will say. Let's listen to this. Disnan, here we go. Bo bayom beber Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva dash in the following. V'chol kli cheres yitma. Every kli cheres yitma. Tamei lo ne'emar. It doesn't say tamei. Rather, what does it say? Ela yitma. What does it mean? Tamei la'acherim. It means it has the ability to convey tumah to others. What does this teach us? Limeid al kikar sheni shu osa shlishi b'chulin. Rabbi teaches us that what? That a kikar, which is a sheni, has the ability to create a shlishi bechulin. So Rabbi, this is amazing. Remember again, Rabbi, just understand what we're trying to figure out over here. Just right to keep our eye on the ball. The Mishnah talked to us about a bloodless shchita. And what did it say by a bloodless shchita? That's what? You could partake of this animal even with what? With tamei hands. Which tells us that if there was blood in the shchita, the blood would be machshir the animal lekabel tumah, and you could not eat it with tamei hands. We already know that we're not talking about what kind of animal? A kudshim animal. I'll say for all the reasons that the Gemara said. So we're dealing with a chullin animal. We're trying to figure out what's the case of chullin where what? Where yadayim could convey tumah. Because on the normal circumstances, yadayim are what? Yadayim are a sheni. So we thought maybe we're talking about a case of a yadayim that's a rishon. Where can you come up with a case of a yadayim where a rishon? Where? Saras. Right? Or according to Rabbi Akiva, if you stick your hands in the house, the hands become a rishon. A rishon could convey tumah. The Gemara says you don't have to do that. Rabbi Akiva holds that a sheni could make a what? Can make a shlishi by chulin. Because we'll say after all, Rabbi Akiva says, leave it al kikar sheni, she'osa shlishi b'chulin. Oh, we'll say this is it. So therefore, you got to say, according to Rabbi Akiva, it would appear that hands which are a sheni could what? Could convey tumah to an animal which is chulin, as long as that animal was what? Was what? Had blood, because then that blood is the liquid that is machshir lekabel tumah shalom al yisrael. To which the Gemara says, no. Doma hani mili betuma daraisa. Maybe Rabbi Akiva holds that a sheni can make a shlishi. Rabbi say that's only by what? That's only by tuma daraisa. But b'drabanan lo. Rabbi say but tuma darabanan, which Rabbi say stam yadayim. We talk about hands being tamei. Rabbi say that's a tuma darabanan. Maybe even Rabbi Akiva holds that by drabanan sheni can't make a shlishi. I'm Rabbi Oshia. Both say so again. We're just understand. Both say this actually is very straightforward. We're just trying to figure out the case, right? The Mishnah was very excited that if there's a bloodless shchita, hands can't convey tumah to the animal, which is fantastic. Except that it tells us that in a case where there is blood, right, hands can convey tumah to the animal. The problem is hands are a sheni. What's the case where a sheni can convey tumah to a chulin animal? We just thought we found it. Rabbi Akiva holds that a sheni can make a shlishi by chulin. Says, well, maybe not. Maybe that's only by a case of what? Tumah da'araisa. But Rabbi say stam case where we say that yadayim are a sheni, that's tumah da'rabana, not tumah da'araisa. So what's the case? Here we go. Another possibility. Hacha b'chulin shenasu al taras hakodesh askinan. Taras hekdesh askinan. What's what are we dealing with over here? With chulin, which were ultimately again prepared by chulin which are prepared al taras hekdesh. Chulin which are being prepared, Rabbi say, in conformance with the details of hekdesh. So the Gemara says, Disanya, v'udelok Rabbi Yoshua. And Rabbi say this would not reflect the view of Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi say, take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Al taras hekdesh, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines are for the bottom of Rashi. Al taras hekdesh, kigon adam haragil le'achol kodshim. What's the mind of a person who normally eats kachim, so we'll say because this is a person who often eats sacrificial items, he tries to keep one general standard with everything he eats. Vishomer af chulin mikol tumas haposlos bekodesh. And I will say therefore what? He's careful even with chulin. I will say for any type of tumah that would pass l'bekodesh. Va'ashmo'inon the sheni aver b'ushish. So when I watch this, so Rabbi Lazar says in Rabbi Oshia that what's the case over here? The case of the Mishnah is a case of chulin that are being prepared al taras hekdish udeloki Rabbi Yoshua, but not in conformance with the position of Rabbi Yoshua. What does Rabbi Yoshua? Watch this. Desanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer ha'ochel ochel Rishon. Rabbi say, bless you. If someone goes ahead and eats food which is a Rishon, he becomes a Rishon. Sheni. If he eats food which is a Sheni, he becomes a Sheni. Shlishi. Rabbi say, ultimately, if he eats food which is a Shlishi, then what? Shlishi, you are what you eat, right? Whatever you eat is what your status becomes. Rabbi Yeshua Omer no. Ha'ochel Rishon v'Sheni Sheni. We'll say if you eat food, whether it's a Rishon or a Sheni, you become a Sheni. Shlishi, if you eat food which is a shlishi, sheni lekodesh, then ultimately again you become a sheni for kodesh, ve'ein sheni letruma. But I will say ultimately again, but yet you do not become a sheni for truma. Bechulin shenasu ataras kodesh, bechulin shenasu ataras truma. So the Gemara says, actually before we go on, take a look at Rashi just a moment. We look Rabbi Yoshua, damar chulin shenasu ataras hakodesh lo pasabu shlishi debatla daito vein yachol lahatvis al chulin taras kodesh. So we'll say, now watch this. So therefore we'll say, first of all, Rabbi Yoshua is of the general opinion that tuma does not always transfer in a logical way. Right? So we'll say, so that's the first order of business over here. So Rabbi Yeshua says, Ocha rishon, I'm sorry, just read that again. Hocha rishon v'sheni sheni, shlishi sheni lekodesh and sheni letruma. Bechulin shenasu ataras truma in ataras hekdesh lo, kasavar chulin shenasu ataras hakodesh lo, less behu shlishi. So we'll say, because Rabbi Yeshua holds that in general, that's what? That chulin shenasu ataras hakodesh, they cannot become a shlishi. So we'll say, what the Gemara is suggesting over here is as follows. We're going to stop over here with this. The way the Gemara is setting this up, according to Rabbi Lazar, who says the name of Rabbi Oshia, that the case of the Mishnah Bosa is chulin shenasu ataras hakodesh. So we'll say, if you have chulin shenasu ataras hakodesh, and now remember again, I'm shechting this animal. It bleeds. The blood makes it hoksher lekabel tuma. My hands are what? My hands are what? A sheni. So I will say, so the first opinion over here, which we'll call Rabbi Eliezer, I will call Rabbi Eliezer, it's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer will hold that when you are preparing a food, a chulin animal, that is being done al taras hakodesh, what's the halacha Rabbosai? A sheni can make a shlishi. On the other hand, Rabbi Yoshua holds that what? Chulin shenas al taras hakodesh, less behu shlishi. He holds there is no shlishi. Therefore, the Gemara is suggesting that maybe the case of the Mishnah is where I am preparing an animal, al taras hakodesh, right? I'm shechting it. If there is blood, the blood makes the animal fit lekabel tuma. The Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Eliezer, who holds that what? That a sheni can make a shlishi by chulin shenasa taras hakodesh. But it does not reflect the view of Rabbi Yoshua. Why? Because Rabbi Yoshua holds that chulin shenasu taras hakodesh or taras hegdish, they do not have a shlishi. A sheni cannot make a shlishi. So we'll stop over here for today. Again, we have not resolved this. We're going to try tomorrow in Mirat Hashem to figure out really, finally, what the Mishnah is talking about. We'll pick up over here last line, Lamed Gimel, based tomorrow.